Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another Tech Time Tuesday at the Kenton County Public Library. My name is Mr. Brandon. If you've been to the Erlanger Stream Center, you've probably seen me back in the space. What we're going to go ahead and talk about today is actually our new 3D printer that we have in the Stream Center. It is a Formlabs Form 3, so it is an SLA 3D printer. What that means is it actually works in a liquid resin instead of a solid plastic. And I'm going to show you why that's pretty cool. So our 3D printer actually looks like this. So the item on the left with the orange and black is actually the 3D printer, and it has a big tank in the bottom of it where all of the resin will sit, and then the little black plate towards the top dips down into that resin, and then it slowly builds the piece onto there, and it kind of hangs upside down. Now, the thing next to it is actually a washing machine. It has about 2 gallons of isopropyl alcohol, so like rubbing alcohol that you would have at home, inside, and it washes the 3D prints to make sure that if there are any bubbles or little extra bits of resin that we don't want on there, that those get washed off, so we end up with a nice, clean 3D printed item. The third machine is actually a curing machine. This kind of resin is actually not safe to touch with your hands before it's been cured under a UV light. So we always have to make sure that before we handle the prints with our bare hands, we run it in this machine, and it sits in there for about 60 minutes at a time, just to make sure that it's all the way dry and it's completely safe. So let's show you guys how to prep your own prints. This is the preform software that we will use for all the 3D printed items that we use with this machine. The very first thing that you would want to do is select a printer. If you want to download this software at home, there is actually a dummy printer labeled Form 3 that you can use just to test the software out and see how long a print would take or how expensive it would be. Since I actually have our 3D printer here with us, I can actually select our 3D printer. It is named Level Cat. So I'm going to go ahead and select the cat. And you'll notice it says that our printer is good to go. There is a resin tank in the back, and there is a tray already installed on the bottom. You'll also notice over here on the right-hand side, it can actually tell us how much resin is in that tank so that we don't try and print a really large item and then we run out of resin mid-print. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. And you'll notice that I accidentally selected a material that was wrong for our printer, so it's going to fix that for me. Okay, so now the next item that we need to look at is the layer thickness. This number equates to how thick a layer is in microns. So the larger that number is, the thicker the layer, and the smaller it is, the smaller the number. The smaller the layer. Now, for this, 160 will give you a very fast print. Now, just because it is a fast print doesn't mean it's going to be a bad quality or anything. 160 on the Formlabs will still give you a very detailed print. I typically run my prints at this number right here. I typically do it at 100 because I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, so I need a little bit more detail because those small figures have belts and armor and all sorts of cool stuff that I want to showcase, so sometimes it needs to be a little more accurate. The other two settings for 50 and 25 microns, we usually don't use those a whole lot because they take an extremely long amount of time to print something. So to give you an idea, normally a small little game piece would take about an hour or maybe 2 hours if it's pretty big. On the 25 micron setting, that same size piece is going to be 5 hours. So it takes a really long time, but it's really, really detailed, but sometimes you don't want to wait 5 hours for a print. So we're going to go ahead and do this at my usual 100 microns, and then we're going to hit apply. And you'll notice here, we actually get this nice little digital box to play with. if we make our item too large or we move it outside of where the printer can actually print, this whole space will turn red, and it's very easy to catch that. So what we're going to go ahead and do is open up a file that I've saved. And if anyone knows or has seen anything from my desk, you know what this is going to involve. We're going to have to repair this file right here, which is good. That means that the program is actually going to fix the model that I downloaded from online because it's got some broken pieces or it may be a corrupt file, but luckily the preform software can actually fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit repair, and it might take it a minute or two. Usually it's pretty fast though. So it's almost done. Still working. Almost. Taking a little bit longer. Let's see. There we go. There he is. Okay. So this little guy right here, most everyone is probably going to recognize. This is Baby Yoda. So what we're going to do is we are going to kind of zoom around him, and I'm going to show you what all these little red dots mean. So if you look at him, you'll notice that he's got several little red spots around him. That is actually the printer telling you that if you leave this print the way it is, those parts are not going to come out the right way. So what we need to do is if we look over on the right-hand side of the software, what we're going to do is we want to get all three of these settings to be a green thumbs up. So we already have the cups in a green thumbs up. We need to get the minima and the printability to be green as well. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to put some supports on this guy so we can build his arms and get all that stuff taken care of. So up on the top left-hand side, there is a little button that kind of looks like a refrigerator leaning down. We're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up the support menu. So on here, we have a couple things that we can change. Typically, I do not use a full raft because it takes a lot of extra resin and it just makes it more expensive. And the mini rafts actually work just fine. With this, we want to leave the density of the supports at 1, which means that they will be completely solid. We also want to lower our touch point size to 0.4. What that means is that we're making the point of contact between the support and Baby Yoda as small as it can be while still supporting him. So with this, we're going to go ahead and hit Auto Generate Selected Supports. And you'll notice what it's going to do is it's actually going to build a framework around Baby Yoda, and it's going to make sure that as the 3D printer builds Baby Yoda out of the resin, that if there's an arm that's sticking out in this case, or his little hand kind of hanging out down here, that it doesn't just fall off after it gets 3D printed. You'll also notice that we've got a lot of little bits that need to be supported under his hood, on his back here, in his hand. So we need to support all of that, and that's what we're doing. So we are going to give it just a minute here. And there we are. So now we have a fully supported Baby Yoda. So you'll know there's a lot of stuff sticking outside of him, but that's totally fine. So all of this gray stuff that we see on the computer screen right now, that is actually going to go away once we get done with the printing. We're actually going to break those off, and then we'll sparkle them up and they'll be ready to go. All right. Now what we need to do is make sure that the entire print is actually inside of the build space. You'll notice that if we look down from the top here, there's a little bit on this right hand side that's kind of sticking out. We don't want that because that means that the print is going to fail and we don't want to waste all this resin. So what we're going to do is come down here to the left hand side and we're going to click on Layout. And we're going to hit Layout All. And what that does is it scoots everything around to make sure that everything is inside. So you can see right here, that little circle has made its way to the inside of the build plate, and Baby Yoda will come out just fine. So now I can go ahead and close that setting. Now if we look over on the right hand side, you'll notice that the printability is now a green thumbs up, the minima is now a green thumbs up, and the cups are a green thumbs up, which means that Baby Yoda will come out just fine. You'll also notice over here on the right that it gives us a time estimate. So Baby Yoda is pretty large. He's about the size of a softball, so he's almost life-size. And then layers, we have 957 layers, and it's going to cost, let's see, it's going to be 138 millimeters. And we charge you 15 cents per milliliter, so this Baby Yoda would cost $20.70. This file can be saved, so if I go to File, and then Save As, I can name him and save him on here. Just going to name him Baby Yoda and save. And that will save him, and I can save it to a flash drive, and I can bring that into the library, and then I can plug that into our 3D printer and upload him, and he will start to print. Now, it's very important to remember that even after he's done 3D printing, we still have to go through the wash, which is about 20 minutes in the alcohol bath, and then we also have to go to the curing machine with the UV light, and that is for 60 minutes. Typically, this is going to be done by a staff member because obviously we don't want you guys to have to hang around the library for 9 hours waiting on a 3D print, and then an additional almost hour and a half to finish the wash and the cure. So typically a staff member is going to take care of the curing and the washing for you. But after that, you would have a nice little 3D printed Baby Yoda. And then we could paint him, or we could add stuff to him. We could do anything that we wanted to. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for another Tech Time Tuesday. Continue to look at our online calendar. We'll have lots of different events there. And join us next week for another Tech Time Tuesday. Thank you.